Welcome to He Says, She Says, God Says. Hello, Benjamin.
Hello, Emily.
We are back in Australia.
We are. We've captured some great stories when we were away in Vancouver for the Canadian camp over there in August, which was pretty amazing.
I think that it was incredible camp. Now, we do have a tendency to say that about every camp. We do love our camps.
It's true. There is a short highlight video on the Revival on the Air Today YouTube channel if people want to go and check out the Canadian camp, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about 4 couples that we met while we were over there who had all started their relationships intercontinentally.
Yeah, and we thought we had it hard. We were only 5 hours away if I was driving.
So different couples. So we've got young, some younger, some older.
Yeah, good mix.
Different continents, North America, Europe, Australia, and really good stories about how to, not only how to navigate the challenges of long-distance relationships, but just relationships in general. They're just great stories.
They are.
I mean, we obviously had experience ourselves being 450 kilometres, what's that, about 300 miles from each other.
Yeah. And we were, when you look at it compared to these stories, we had it super easy because I think we saw each other, every 2 weeks or
2 or 3 weeks we could drive up and down.
Yeah.
But a lot of the challenges they face and a lot of the things that they talk about are pretty consistent across all 4 stories. And consistent with our story as well. So we won't spoil the surprise. We'll see if your listeners can work it out as to what are the key elements of managing relationships and long-distance relationships.
Indeed.
So we've got 2 couples for you. We've got Will and Hannah, and we've got Carlton and Lee. So enjoy their stories.
Enjoy.
So Will and Hannah, welcome to He Says, She Says, God Says.
Hello, thanks for having us.
So we're sitting here on a balcony overlooking the beautiful Loon Lake in Vancouver at the Canada camp. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It's the best camp I've been to.
Best camp? Is it the only camp you've been to?
No.
Well, that's good.
Better than last year's camp, and that was amazing too.
It's amazing. I mean, the scenery is beautiful, but the fellowship surpasses the scenery, I think.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
So we got talking a couple of days ago, and this episode's going to be about navigating long-distance relationships, of which you two have some significant experience.
That's right. Yeah.
So where did you guys meet?
We met in Launceston, actually.
Which is where you're from?
Yep, that's where I'm from. Hannah travelled over with her auntie and uncle to Launceston. I think it was a round trip around Australia, and came and visited our assembly.
And so you're a Vancouver native?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. She came and introduced herself to me. That's how it all started, and I like to say that as well.
It was in 2018, and I had a pass with his family as well. I had met his mom in Sri Lanka, and his sister had come out to visit Vancouver multiple times.
Yeah.
And so I had actually heard quite a bit about Will from his mom when we went traveling, and from his sisters as well. And I had prayed about him before going over in 2018 on my own. And at that time, I felt like the answer I'd heard was a solid no. And so I didn't explore that any further, actually, when I went over in my own in 2018. And so we did meet for the first time, and he was quite shy and nervous. And he made it a matter of fact, actually, to come and say hello to the people I was standing with, but not make eye contact with me or acknowledge me.
That is true.
But he actually didn't just do that in that trip. He did that exact same move in 2019 when I went back.
Mm-hmm. So what did you think? Did you think he wasn't interested, or?
Oh, I think he was just playing hard to get. It was some kind of move. I couldn't quite read it. But
and so between those 2 trips, did you communicate online? Did you stay in touch?
No, we didn't actually. We never communicated online at all, actually, and until we, until obviously after we dated. But yeah.
And so, how did it come together for you two?
In 2019, I hadn't actually planned on going back to Australia because I had just done it the year before. But my family decided to do a large trip together. We went to Bali first, then Australia, since they had some childhood friends who were actually also in Tasmania. And we decided to go to a church camp in Tasmania. And then, went back, met Will. We were there for several weeks, and I was actually keeping my distance from him because I had a feeling that he might want to talk to me, and I just was running from it.
I believe I wanted to talk to her. I was just extremely nervous. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. That was something I struggled with growing up. And, I used to just compare myself to her, and I thought I had no chance. So that's pretty harsh, I know, but that's just that's the way my mind was at the stage.
And was that because Hannah was a confident, sort of outgoing type person?
Looked like it, and a very beautiful person, and I guess it scared me as a young guy. And
he did find some roundabout ways. I remember he had an item, and his sister came up to me and said, "Would you like to be in Will's singing item tonight? He's wondering."
I didn't have the guts to go and tell her. I mean, I think I meant to, but my sister offered, and I thought that was the best idea I've ever heard. So I'm like, yeah, go and do that.
So I wasn't a singing item at that camp.
Yeah.
And then also his sister came up to me after a meeting one night, and she goes, there's just a little group of us playing Uno at my campsite. Would you like to go? And I said, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And I was sitting next to another sister at that time, and I leaned over and I said, how much you want to bet Will Searle will be there? And she goes, 100% he's planned this.
Yeah, that's true. Before the meeting that day, I actually was working that camp, so I was coming back and forth, and I went straight to my sister and said, we need to plan something tonight. I just wanted to sort of hang out with Hannah, but I just needed to find a good way to do that. And she came up with the Uno night, and I said, okay, you organise that if you can.
Yeah, nice.
So there's a lot of little things that happened before we actually connected one-on-one. It was I think I was in Australia for 3 more days, and I was kind of just resting on the porch of the trailer we were staying at. And Will came up and was asking me where everyone was going for lunch, even though I'm probably the worst person you could ask. I'm not familiar with the area at all. He says, oh, you know where we're going? I say, no. And he goes, okay. And he walks off. And all of a sudden he does a 180 and starts coming right back. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? And he asked me.
Yeah, I asked her out. But leading up to that, I'd been praying about Hannah, and it was for quite a few days at that stage. And I just wanted to leave it with the Lord and let it be His will. And I just asked Him, I had a prayer one morning and just said, if it's meant to happen, just make it obvious and make it a clear sign. Because it was hard Hannah had a lot of friends. There was talking to a lot of people. It was hard to find her alone, to maybe ask her out or something like that, or just talk to her. But I was leaving camp for an outing, and I was with her brother. And then as I was just about to leave in the car, and I got a text from another brother saying, can you pick so-and-so up? And I said, yeah, sure. Great timing. I didn't actually realize where he was camping at the time. But yeah, I drove onto their little street where he was, and went to pick him up. I had to wait a couple minutes as he was getting ready, and I noticed Hannah sitting on the porch, and I was just like, my heart was pumping so fast, and I just realized this was it. And I remember. So
you realized that this was the answer to your prayer.
This was the answer. This is the clear sign that the Lord had for me. And I just remember elbowing Hannah's brother that was next to me in the car and said, I think I'm going to ask your sister out. and I built up the courage, and I walked straight up there. Didn't do it on my first turn. I said a few things, and as Hannah said, I did know where we were going for lunch, and I just went and asked her anyway, and then walked off, turned around, and then asked her out. And that's how that happened.
And obviously you said yes.
Yeah.
I did. Well, that was obviously a moving on myself as well, because 2 days prior, my mom had asked me, if Will Searle asked you, would you say yes? And I said, absolutely not. And then it was 2 days later, Will came up and asked me, and I felt such a peace about it. And I just remember saying, I'd love to. And it shocked me when I actually said that, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked too to hear that. Very happy.
Yeah, spent the camp running.
Yeah.
Running from each other. And then, yeah.
And so then you obviously had some time together, a few days before you headed home.
Yeah, we did. We went on just some walks around because the town that we had camp in was quite small, and they're very vigilant about like closing their shops early and stuff like that. So there was really nothing we could do other than walk and just kind of talk.
Yeah, we went to the town and we went for a nice walk. That was really nice. And it was actually coming back. So we had an outing that day, and we came back from the outing, and we have 2 shower blocks in the campsite, and I just happened to make my way past the first one to walk down to the second one where Hannah's campsite was, and she was out the front. Her family was going off to a dinner with another family, and I managed just to grab her just before she left. And yeah, I asked her out if she wanted to go then, and she said she'd love to as well. So we went for that bit of a drive and then a really nice walk, and that was our first date, I guess. Yeah.
And I remember like during the date as well, because I hadn't really been thinking about Will in a way that I thought, I'd like to be with him. And during the walk, everything was really nice, but it was really on the drive back that I kind of had a little bit of a spark. And he asked me, would you like to do this again? I said, I'd love to. And then he was course leading that night. And I remember just sitting in my seat, looking at him on the stage and thinking, I would be so lucky to be with a guy like this. Just something about it just felt really special. And then I was leaving. It was either the next day or the day after.
Yeah, a couple of days later. And he was working at the time, so he actually had to leave camp the next day. So we didn't have a ton of time with each other.
So how did that feel?
It felt like we had waited too long. Like it felt like we had missed out almost, but at the same time, I think we both had great individual camps. So we were really grateful that we connected before I hopped on that plane.
Yeah. And so you go home.
Well, I go to Hawaii from there. So we spent New Year's together that evening. And then
I was able to drive her back down to Hobart and spend the night with another brother that drove her family.
Yeah.
And then, drove her to the airport the next morning. She goes to Hawaii. And I'm pretty much, it was like the last day of camp, so I'm back to work.
And so, we kind of just were really excited because at that time COVID wasn't a thing, so he had booked flights pretty much immediately to come out for my birthday and for summer camp.
And so how far away was the next planned trip from?
It was 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
And then we were kind of all just happy, really excited to be talking to each other. Even though it was long distance, it was still so exciting.
And so on the phone or how were you communicating over that?
Yeah, we were calling on the phone. I think we had Skype at the time. We were video calling and texting as much as we could.
Yeah.
Filling
with
all
the
my
time distance, the time.
It was tough. Luckily enough, like my work was really quiet, so I was just calling her while I was at work. I remember I was even like on the phone, holding my phone up to my ear, and then I say, all right, I got to serve a customer. I'll be back in a sec, and then pick it straight back up a minute later, and then we pick off where we're at. It was great.
And so, that period of time when you're away from each other, did that time of communicating and spending time without, obviously other distractions, how important do you think that was for, your relationship?
I think it was very important. I think communication is a great foundation to have with each other. And I think we had a lot of time for that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was all really exciting. And you ask each other all the simple questions that you don't know about each other. And then I believe it was 2 months into the relationship, around February, March, that's when we found out that, COVID is a real thing, and that our meeting for about the year at least was going to be canceled. So we weren't going to be seeing each other for a year. And when it's such an early relationship, you really have to have faith knowing that, there's going to be hard times ahead.
Yeah.
And although we didn't spend that much time together to really confirm how strong we were together, we just knew like it's worth putting the effort in for at least this year. Could be longer. We weren't sure. And so we had a lot of time to, have deep conversations and stuff, because all you have is time and you're just staring at each other through a screen.
Yeah.
And so we got really creative with ways to, we weren't building memories or experiences with each other, like getting out in a boat. We were just kind of sitting there with each other trying to, get creative. And so we sang hymns. That was one of the things we did together.
Sang hymns together.
Yeah, we sang hymns together.
Yeah.
I would play my guitar and, and Hannah would sing as well with me. And
Because you're a bit of a musical couple, aren't you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play piano and Will plays guitar, and he's been singing for a long time. I'm not really, I don't consider myself a singer, but I that was actually something I felt really blessed about, because I always wanted somebody to be a little bit musical, just because I love playing the piano. I love contributing in that way. And so
you sang hymns together. What other creative ideas did you have?
we each got a pack of Uno cards.
Yep.
And we'd play
yeah,
Uno.
we'd play Uno.
Constantly. We're always playing
We
Uno.
were very competitive against each other too.
So hang on, how do you play remotely?
You really have to trust each other.
Yeah, that is true, yeah.
Especially if you're both competitive.
I'm sure we're both very honest. But
Yeah, you just kind of show each other the card and lay it down, and then they play the next one. You just,
Oh, right.
yeah, or you just say what you're putting down.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I don't know how
It
we
worked.
came across. We had played Uno together before. Well, that's actually the Uno night he had planned with his sister.
Yeah. That's got a special place in this whole thing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It does. And we also got dressed up for a really fancy dinner. At his time, it was more so lunch, and it was a late dinner for me. And then we both took our headphones and our iPads, and we went to a fancy restaurant each and had a nice dinner with each other.
That's cool.
That's what we did, yeah.
That is so cool. What a great idea.
Yeah, that was great. I wonder, was that to celebrate something? Or I wonder if we just did that.
I actually think that was our 1-year anniversary.
Must have been, yeah. I remember taking the day off for it.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then we'd get really creative with our gifts. And I think we sent each other like a big package each year.
Yeah.
That we were apart, and it was just like full of like little goodies and jokes and personal items that just made it special. Keep going.
So you really created all these memories remotely, didn't you? These are all the things that you would do in person, but you found a way to do that by long distance. Wow, that's amazing.
And having each other, I just remember like every time I would finish work, Hannah would stay up late for me. It was probably almost midnight every time through a lot of it, and she would stay up, and I just have that person to talk to and have that communication with somebody that I was in love with, and that was really special to me, especially through COVID, not being able to see the other brothers and sisters, but having a connection like that with somebody was something that's so amazing.
I felt really blessed about that as well. It was a lonely few years. We each had different restrictions for our country's rules, but there was a lot of isolation over here, and I just felt so blessed to be able to call Will every single day and have that companionship still, even though it was long distance. I had someone to talk to and laugh with.
And so how long before you were able to see each other again?
I think it was 1 year and 10 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
We said goodbye to each other in December of 2019, and then we saw each other in midway through November of 2021.
Wow, that's amazing. There must have been some dark, hard times, I imagine, through there. What got you through those? Or what were they, and what got you through those?
There was some times, with the communication. It wasn't something I really grew up learning how to do properly. And there was some really tough times where I didn't know how to communicate my own feelings. And I think it just put a strain on the relationship. And for a brief period, it did cause us to have a bit of a break for a few months, actually. And it was very hard having that time of separation. But I remember hearing from my sister something Hannah said, and she was just really thankful that she had me just for that time through COVID. Even if things didn't work out, it was just to have that brother or that friend, that also loves the Lord, to share blessings and just to get her through. Yeah, so it was 3 months or so. We spent a bit of time apart, and then I ended up reaching back out to her, and, one thing led to another, and we ended up back up together, and, we talked about communication and the importance of it. And, I finally engaged on that, and and the real importance of it and what it means to communicate in a relationship, especially a long distance one.
I think in all relationships, I think distance is, obviously going to mean it's important.
Yeah.
But I think that's important in all relationships. So what did you do differently?
I think I listened more, and definitely prayed more. So I was praying, but there was just times maybe where I wasn't praying hard enough. I wasn't looking to the Lord for direction, and I was just praying and just going about my day just as it was. But when we got back together, I really looked to the Lord for direction. I really looked to the Lord for guidance. And before that, during that time that we're away, that's obviously what led us back together, because this was meant to happen.
And what did you see different in Will after you'd had that break?
He was open to conversations about, when I would ask him how he's feeling, I wouldn't receive a vague answer like, "Oh, good." And I was like, "Oh, what do you mean by good?" "I'm good." Or "Oh,
More
not
depth,
so good."
please.
Yeah, exactly. I really felt like I was digging and digging.
That was a big struggle of mine, was
because we
getting my feelings out there and didn't know what to say.
Yeah, we grew up in two different families. He came from a much larger family than I did as well, and they didn't so much have those deep conversations with each other, whereas in the way I was raised, we would always have deep and meaningfuls. My parents would really sit me down and kind of just have these conversations with me, seeing where I was at, and I had learned how to, I guess, know how I feel a little bit more and how to put that into words. Whereas I think even for yourself, because you weren't being asked those questions, you didn't always even know how you were feeling. So I think that the Lord really helped open up, not just the communication, but understanding was there, and being able to then put it into words made a big difference in our conversations. Especially, it is like communication was just as important as when we were together as when it was long distance. The only thing is, when you're long distance, that's all you really have is conversation with each other. So it's so important.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's really fascinating how we bring our upbringing into our marriage. And so different upbringings, you bring both of those things into a marriage. And sometimes you'll need to learn to tweak those. And so you see each other in November, nearly 2 years later.
The borders finally opened.
Yeah. And so who went where?
I came here. And it was a one-way trip.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't know that at first. It was legally I had to book for a return trip, which I had 3 months later. And so, yeah.
So hang on. So you'd planned to come for 3 months. So did you take holidays from work, or did you ditch the job?
I quit my job.
Right.
They tried to keep me.
Yeah.
I was working with my brother-in-law doing a little bit of construction work for about a month or two before I flew over here. And it originally just planned for 3 months. That's what all my family thought, and that's basically what I thought as well. I knew a little bit in my heart that it could be a one-way trip. I didn't know that though for sure. And I'd say about 2 months into that trip, I think it was only a month and a half we actually got engaged.
Yeah.
And then I was praying about it and talking with Hannah, and even getting guidance from her parents, and just thinking logistics wise, it might be smart to stay until we get married in the middle of the year, and then move after that, move back to Launceston. Yeah, I think it was maybe April or so, or March, we actually came to that. I came to that decision after praying a lot about it, and seeing the Lord's guidance and works in my life, and just knowing that it was the right thing to stay. It was just so clear. And so I had to call my parents, which was the hardest phone call I've ever had to do. And I had to explain to them that I wasn't coming home. They didn't really have any idea when I called them. I remember just calling them, saying hello, and then asked them to sit down so we can have a chat. And I just remember my mum and dad just crying. And I was tearing up as well. It was a very hard conversation. But the main support and the main blessing was that Hannah was right next to me, and that's what I was here for. I moved all this way for her, and to start a new life in the Lord out here, and have that blessing.
And it's very clear that that's where God wanted you, right? From all of the little steps along the way. So I assume you took confidence and faith in that this was the right decision for you.
Yeah, that's right. I remember just having Hannah as a support right next to me, holding my hand, and and helping me through. And,
Yeah.
I knew that's of the Lord. I knew that's the Lord's hand through her, just keeping me strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was still the toughest call I've ever had. Would never want to do it again. But in saying that, I also would if I knew I was going to receive the Lord's blessing and this blessing that I have now. I would do it a million times over.
Yeah.
And the next night I had to call each of my sisters, and one after another, and that was just as tough. And but as I said, I gave some thoughts the other day, and I was at Hannah's parents. I mentioned that, and Hannah's parents' house. I mentioned that, and her siblings were there, and her parents and herself, and they were just such a support. And I know that's just of the Lord, because I wouldn't have been able to do it myself, and I wouldn't have been able to do it with anybody else.
Yeah. And so when did you get married?
July 11th, I remembered.
You got it? Of
Good-
2022.
Good job.
Thanks.
You've got to remember that for a long time going forward.
I've got it written down on my hand.
Yeah,
So.
cool. If we're allowed to have tattoos, you could probably do that too. But we're
I'll
not.
always remember it's 7-Eleven day out here,
Yeah.
which means it's free Slurpee day.
Yes, National Slurpee Day.
And so what year was that? So that's
That was 2022.
2022. Yeah, okay. So you've just had your first year anniversary?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. It's gone quick, a very quick year. And it's been full of blessing, which is great.
Well, of course it's going to go quick compared to the years that you'd spent
definitely.
apart,
Yep.
which would go much slower, I imagine.
Yep.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for other couples who, may be dating long distance?
Definitely remember the word perseverance. We're always going to go through trials. We're always going to go through hard times. But if we can persevere with the Lord, we're always going to prevail.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we'll see the victory.
Yeah.
There was times where me and Hannah did fall, but we built ourselves back up, and we replaced that foundation with an even stronger one. And by doing that, there's that rock, which is the Lord Jesus, which we cannot fall from that.
And for you, Hannah, what advice would you have for other young couples or old couples?
I think appreciate the time you have, even when it's difficult, when it's long distance. You can get creative to build those memories, and you can also use it to get a lot closer just through conversation, right? You can ask those deep questions, you can have fun too, of course, but there's nothing wrong with just having quiet time between the two of you, because life gets busy. So at the end of the day, being able to just slow down, hop on a call with each other, just discuss your days. It's really lucky, because even now that we're together and we're both working full time, and it sometimes
And
you
you've got
come home.
you got life, you got homes, you got life, you got all these other things that go on that you have to attend to. Do you reckon you have the same amount of time for the D&Ms now than you did then?
No, actually, I don't. I think life's busier now, and you look back and you just appreciate the time you had to slow down together.
I think it's an amazing blessing. What a way to start developing a relationship with such an important element, and that is the communication that really a lot of relationships are really founded on. It's good. Thanks for sharing your story.
Oh, no worries.
Thank
Happy
you so
to.
much.
I'm sure there'll be other couples listening to this over the years who will glean some wonderful ideas from you. So thanks for sharing. Carlton Lee, welcome to He Says, She Says, God Says.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Now, you've both got different accents
Yeah,
because you both lived in different parts of the world.
that is correct. Yep.
Let's talk about how you got together.
Well, actually, we met in Victoria, British Columbia at the rally back in May of 2016.
And so you're from...
I'm originally born in the United States.
Yes.
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but I've traveled all over the place. I actually came to the Lord in Newcastle, Australia.
Is that right?
Yeah, back in 1986.
Okay.
Lived there, then moved back to the States back in 93 in Fresno. So I've been back in the States ever since. From there, I moved to San Pedro. And then from San Pedro, we moved out to Athens, Georgia. So
Right.
been around a little bit.
You have been around a bit. So you're in Victoria, in Canada, at a camp, and Lee, you'd visited the camp from Australia as well?
Yep.
And so that's where you met?
It is. Yeah. My son was living in Victoria, still is,
Yeah.
with Pastor Mark. And I'd gone over there for the rally. I didn't even think I was going to go because I had a whole lot of issues that might have prevented that. So until 6 days before we left, I didn't even know it was coming. And it was only that I really, really, really wanted to go there, and because I wanted to catch up with Jordan, hadn't seen him for a couple of years, and just really wanted to get out and about. And then I was there for a week, and everyone else was tripping around Alaska on a cruise, and including my son. And I had been meant to go on that, and I didn't because I wasn't allowed in the States at that time because I had legal issues from before I came to the Lord. And so there I was sitting in Victoria, house sitting, dog sitting, and looking after a whole bunch of PNG saints, which was a blast. And then on the Friday, which is when the rally technically began, it was also the day I fell and slammed my hand and dislocated my thumb. And I was praying, and it actually went back in. So that was a miracle in itself. But it was very painful, very swollen, very bruised. And I was there at the rally, and Jordan comes along to me, my son, and says, "Someone I want you to meet." And it was him.
That was Carlton.
and so my first thought was, wow. But I was...
Wow that Jordan was matchmaking, or wow when you saw Carlton?
No, actually, wow that when I saw Carlton, but actually I had forgotten, actually. But no, my son was not matchmaking. He just wanted to introduce me. He just loved Canada and loved the States. He'd come down to a camp, and so he'd met a lot of people, and he was just thrilled with everyone. And my first thought was, wow. And my second thought was, my son is proud of me. Like, he wants to introduce his mother to people. So that was really thrilling. But I was really tongue-tied, so I really didn't talk to him.
Well, you were nervous?
Yeah, I was. I was nervous. And my first thought was, when I got introduced, was, I don't want to shake my hand, please, because I hate shaking hands anyway, but it was so sore. I thought, I can't do that. So I just was tongue-tied.
And Carlton, so how did you feel the first time you met her?
It was funny because this was the first time I've ever sort of, met somebody else that, outside of some of the people that I knew and grew up with and was raised with, even in Fresno. And so when Jordan introduced me, he already told me that his mother was coming over. And at the time I didn't know for sure that his mother was in the Lord, but then when he introduced, she's in the Lord, huh? So it was funny. So he introduced us, and there was a little bit misunderstanding about where I was from, because she thought I was from Los Angeles, but San Pedro was actually not in Los Angeles. So I said, no. I said, no, San Pedro is actually a separate little place. And she felt really embarrassed about that. So
I didn't know.
So she got really quiet, and I thought, okay, did I say something wrong? And I thought, okay, well, I thought maybe I said something or she didn't want to talk. So I said, okay. So we, for that whole week, we didn't really, that was it. We didn't really talk much at all.
For the rest of the camp?
Yeah.
Oh, it was only a couple of days.
It was just for a long weekend, but I was actually with Pastor Dave and Alice Elliott from Fresno, so I was hanging around with them. And so it was so funny because we didn't talk, because I didn't know she really wanted to talk to me. I just had no idea at that time. And I wasn't going to make an imposition of myself, you see.
So were either of you looking for a partner? I mean, you're not teenagers.
No.
Oh, no.
Can I ask how old you were when you got together?
Oh, I was coming up 60.
Yeah.
And you were...
I would have been 60... I'm 70... I would have been 67. No, I would have been 66 then. Yeah, I would have been 66 years old. Yeah.
So were you looking for a partner when you came to the camp? Was that in your mind?
Well, it's funny. It wasn't in my mind when I came to camp. But about a year before that, we had a conversation with the Lord, as many people do, about what you need in life and what I need to do for ministry to get better. And he said, you need a wife. I thought, okay, well, you better find her then. And was your...
I was, but I didn't trust men. My prior marriage was not a nice thing. And so when I came out of that, I was pretty messed up, and I did not like men. I did not trust them. And even within the fellowship, sometimes I'd watch a couple together, or I'd see a man and I'd think, that's not my kind of thing. I was really specific on what I want. I had actually done a checklist. I'd put it away and forgotten about it, but I had done a checklist. It had 10 items on it. And it ended up, I liked him, but when I left to go home, I thought, well, I'll never see him again. But then I friended him on Facebook, and Facebook is amazing. You learn so much about people on Facebook. You learn a lot.
Stalk me on Facebook first.
You learn a lot by what they don't say. And the thing I was interested in well, to begin with, when I went on Facebook, I thought, geez, I don't even know how old he is or if he's single. And I looked at how old he was, his birth year, and I'm like, this is a misprint, because I actually thought he was a lot younger than he was. And
he looks like a lot younger than he is even now.
Yeah, he does. And I thought, uh-oh. And then I thought, I don't even know if he's single. So I learned a lot. But I also learned that he was really strong in the Lord. Like, that was his prominent motivation, which...
And was that on your checklist?
Oh, absolutely. Top
Very
first item. You can have people who are in the fellowship and they've been around for years, but they're carrying a grudge somewhere. And a surprising amount of men who've come out of tough marriages, they're wearing it. It's like they've got a woman hatred thing going on, like the opposite of what I was, I suppose.
Yeah, see, I came out of a bad marriage too. And for 10 years, I was out on my own. I never thought I'd get married again, actually.
Because my first thought, like I said, I thought he was really attractive. But my second thought was, when I met him, that's a happy man. I could see it in his eyes. That is a happy man, a serene man. Something told me.
A joyful man, as we heard in this. We heard in the word yesterday.
That was all I could see. And I thought, I really want to get to know him. And
so when did you start talking? So now you're back in Australia. You're back in Athens.
No, actually in San Pedro.
In San Pedro, sorry, yeah.
I went home. And we were friends on Facebook, and I didn't do much with that. Just now and again, I made a comment on something, like when he was bouncing on a trampoline. I found that astonishing, that you could be that old and do stuff like that. And I thought, I don't want to marry a crusty old dude who's walking around with his thing. So I thought, well, this is good. He's got life. Yeah. And so I was kind of impressed by that. So now and again, I would make a comment on something he said or did or whatever, photo he put up. And then at the same time, I was sort of searching kind of thing, as you do. It's terrible, but you kind of do.
Were you praying about it?
Well, now that's another issue. People had said to me, especially women, I prayed for a husband in the Lord, found one. And I actually know a couple who said that, and they both left the fellowship. So I'm like, and they split up. So I thought, well, okay, yeah, you might pray for a spouse, but I just was really unsure about it. And because it smacked of arranged marriage to me, and the whole arranged marriage concept, which is usually about money or family or whatever, I just thought. And then a couple of friends of mine who have been together 20-odd years were telling me their testimony, and that's exactly what they did. They both prayed, and within 2 weeks they had met, and that was it. And that turned the tide in my thinking, and I suddenly found myself thinking, you know what, you trust the Lord to find you a job, heal issues with family or friends, find you a home. You won't trust him to find you a husband. How sick is that?
The most important thing out of all of those.
Yeah. And so on the way home from dinner with this couple, which was about an hour's drive, I just put it to him, and I said, this is what I want. I know you'll do this. And by the end of next year, please, Lord. That's what I said. This was right coming up towards the end of 2016. Mm-hmm. So, I said, by the end of next year. And I said, I'm taking my hands off the plow, not doing anything. I'm leaving it to you. It's in your hands. And then a little while later, because this would have been, I used to have the date firmly entrenched in my head. I actually think it was early December that I prayed this. And not long after that, I had this very, very vivid dream. What was vivid was that I was with a man and I felt completely safe and secure. And I felt this sense of belonging. I could not see him at all. That was not vivid, but the feeling was. And when I woke up, immediately I said to the Lord, him, find me him. That's him. And so then Christmas came, and I went on my Facebook list and I wished every single person, all my friends on there, individually, Merry Christmas, including him. That was the whole idea. Like hiding veggies in spaghetti.
I don't understand that. What's that?
With kids,
parents, when they want their kids to eat their veggie,
hiding veggies
so
in
you
spaghetti.
sort of grate them up and you put them in spaghetti, and they don't know that that's what they used to do.
I was a veggie in spaghetti. What can I say?
And so that's what I did. And so he messaged back and said Merry Christmas, and then 4 days later, it was the 28th of December, and I was at Christmas camp, and it was 4 a.m. or something, and I get another message. Hello again, how are you? And immediately, I'm lying there by myself in a tent, and I went, bingo. And it was, I think the incredible thing was from that moment, we did not stop talking. We have never stopped talking from that day. It was like an instant connect, as in, everything. Like, you know how when you sort of, you see your friends and you say, I'm going to go and do this now, catch up with you, I'll talk to you tomorrow or tomorrow night or whatever. We were like that immediately. Talk to you tomorrow.
But long distance.
Yeah.
Hey?
But doing that long distance.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, it's sort of, I guess, I don't know if we knew at that point that it wasn't going to stop. But
And so so when you say talking, was this messaging? Was this on the phone?
Messenger.
Well, what had happened is that Carlton Lee on my side, that she sent a message out answering the Facebook post where she saw me to jump out on the trampoline. I thought, there was something about that message, like she had an interest in me. You know, people comment on posts all the time, but there was something personal about that. I said, I know that person. I just thought, because I said, I'll keep you posted. I thought there's something about I really want to keep in touch with her, but I didn't want to do it through Facebook posts. I wanted. So I said, okay, I'll try this messenger, because I wasn't really this big social media sort of guy, you see. I mean, it was hard for me to just keep in touch with somebody on the phone. Yeah. And so what happened when she sent me the message, Merry Christmas, I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna respond back to her directly. So I did. And we just started on Messenger, wasn't it? Back and forth. And I remember when our young people's night, New Year's Eve, that evening, I had a bunch of young people by the house, and I said, hey, I got this friend who lives in Brisbane, Australia. Why don't we just wish her a Happy New Year? It was New Year's Eve, Happy New Year. So we all got on the phone and wished her Happy New Year's and everything.
That was nice.
And so
was that the first time you got on the phone to each other?
Well, we haven't even...
No, still Messenger.
Still Messenger. Yeah. And then I think we've been messaging for almost about a week.
Something like that.
Back and forth. Yeah. And so we decided, okay, well, let's try a phone call. I mean, the only thing we could do because of this is going to be Skype. Yeah. Tried that. That was a failure.
Yeah, that didn't work.
So we went through Messenger conversation. So we did that. A 9-hour conversation.
What? Yep. Yeah.
9 hours. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think you took a break for something, but we picked up a 9-hour phone, the longest phone conversation I ever had in my entire life. We talked, we laughed, we enjoyed, we just laughed until we enjoyed each other's company. It was incredible. It was like somebody you knew forever. That's how it felt. It felt like we knew each other forever.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it was just how it all started. That from there, we just had this connection that we've always enjoyed each other's company, even though we didn't see each other. We really got to know each other via communication. And sometimes technology wasn't always on our side. Yeah. We had dropouts in communications. We had, phones getting lost. We had all sorts of issues that probably would have deterred a lot of people from continuing, but we didn't. We just knew that we were going to do whatever we could keep contact. And when was it? It was about the second week of January.
It was January 6th, maybe?
January 6th, because that was the day we decided to become an item. Now, remember, this has only happened about a week's period of time, but we knew that we knew we were supposed to be together because, like I said, the Lord has told me I needed a wife. And before we start talking toward the end of in November, says, okay, you're running out of time here, okay? You got to do something.
And that sounds, did it feel really natural?
Very.
Yeah, it was like, the whole thing was incredible. I mean, I'd never been in that situation. I mean, I went from 10 years, never even thought about a relationship, never thought about ever getting married again. I was just, had a daughter I had to look at, had some special needs, and some issues that was left from the marriage breakup. And then my idea was, okay, I was going to work till I dropped and serve the Lord. That was my whole thrust in life, to work and serve the Lord. That was it. Relationships had just not even been put until the Lord said, you need a wife. I said, okay, well, it's up to you. Mm. And
so you start dating on January 6th. When did you next see each other?
Well, that's a whole other story. June 17th at the Geelong Convention, June 17th. Yeah. That's the first time we saw each other since we met in May of 2016.
Wow. Okay.
But there's a lot happened between that time.
Oh, boy.
Because by the time we decided that we were an item, and we both did it on Facebook too, the Facebook announcement at the exact same moment.
That was so funny.
The exact same moment was, okay, we're going to do this. And we both announced that we were an item at the exact same time. So that was great. But you know what? Once we did that, there was no thought about, well, we're going to see how this is going to go. We're going to see whatever. We just knew that we were meant to be together. It was like you hear people talk about soulmates. We found out, we really felt we were soulmates. There was no adjustment period. There was no, anything like that. We just knew that we were meant to be together.
And that's no small thing, given, Lee, what you said before about your distrust of men. And so that's no small feat to decide that this is the one, particularly given that you hadn't spent any time together.
Exactly.
So that's quite amazing.
But,
It's, in the Song of Solomon, there's a line that says, my soul, my soul loveth, or something like that.
I have found whom my soul loveth.
I found whom my soul. That's exactly how it felt. It was just like this whole interconnection thing was just there. It's like something just connected. And so,
okay, so you said there's some things happen between, then and then, and you laugh. So we need to hear about those.
You want me to tell this part of it?
Yeah.
Well, what happened? We decided, okay, well, we're going to be together. She prayed for her husband. The Lord said I needed a wife. So this is it. We're going to get married. It was not about any prolonged. He was like, okay, we know we're supposed to be together forever. We got to get married. So we actually started planning getting married. This before we saw each other, yes.
Hold that thought. I think it needs to be said, even before I ever embarked on this, I could always see that people who form relationships via writing in some way and or phone calls, there's a lot of distraction that isn't there just when you're a dating couple. Mm-hmm. So you're reaching right into people. You have to communicate and you just talk about anything and everything. And, we were on a quest to learn about each other, so it wasn't just always talking airy-fairy stuff. There was a lot of, because you can be walking in the Lord but not have a vision. And that was important for me to know that. So, there was a lot of...
So you advocate for couples not spending any time together for the first few months.
But the thing we advocate is people to spend time getting to know each other. And I think if you're around somebody, sometimes just being with them can be a distraction. Like people say, let's go out this Saturday. Let's have your dinner. And
so it can often be about the experiences rather than of being together, rather than the communication and the getting to know parts of being together.
It is in so many ways. It is really advantageous, and you'd think you wouldn't really get to know a person that well if they're on the other side of the world and you're not seeing them, but it is surprising. And what happened? One of the earliest things happened because I knew that. Like, where do you go? We planned marriage right from when we'd been together, maybe 3 weeks, something like that. We knew, and we just started talking about it. And so I thought,
now we do need to say to younger couples who might be listening to this,
we did things a little bit differently.
You've been around the block a few times,
yes.
Right?
And the pastors knew what we were going on. They figured, you guys are old people, so
and the other thing too, I have to say this because couples meet and they think, oh, we both love the beach. We both love dogs. We both love the color blue. So we've got a lot in common. And they don't look at the really deep stuff. Yeah. So they get married and don't even have the same religion, so to speak, and so they get together with all these differences. And that, I would say, definitely go deep, delve deep, learn about that person.
Yes, talk about everything.
What do they value? What's important to them? Where do they want to go in life? Yeah.
Even what do you want to do? Where do you want your relationships to go? What sort of relation? And if a person's going through some hard time, find out about what are their feelings were and things like that.
How do you like to serve the Lord?
Exactly. And don't marry someone thinking in the back of your mind, I'll change that habit. I want to change that. I don't like that about that person. I'll fix it. Never think you're going to change someone because you don't.
You got to
like him how he is. If you don't like him how he is, forget it.
You got to be prepared to take that person as if we know that we're connected, you have to take that's the person that God wants me to be with. So you got to figure if that's the person God wants me to be, I have to accept that, and we'll go from there. But it was just incredible because, like I said, we knew we were meant to get married. There was no doubt about that at all.
So you're planning the wedding. Where were you planning on getting married?
Australia? Yeah, but hold that thought. I wasn't finished just that little bit. Sorry.
Okay, finish. Sorry.
But the thing is, I knew that if I got married again, it had to be absolutely no doubts. I had to want to love this person. I had to love this person, want to love them, and want to be with them for the rest of my life. And I sort of, for a while I was thinking, oh, what if I don't? And what if I think I love him now and then we get there and I don't? But what ended up happening on the 13th of February, so it wasn't long, we were on the phone. So we'd already graduated to lengthy phone calls. And in the middle of it, my sister was trying to call me repeatedly. So I said to him, okay, I'll hang up and find out what's going on, because normally she doesn't do that. And so I answered the phone, and she was telling me that one of my daughters was seriously ill. Something terrible had happened, and she was an hour and a half away. And I lost it. I thought she was going to die, and I actually fell on my knees. I didn't go on my knees, I fell on my knees, and I was so distraught. Anyway, so I knew I had to get back on and explain to him what was going on, because I had to get there. And so I got back on the phone, and I couldn't talk, and I was just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And he prayed and prayed and prayed and just did not stop praying until I was calm. And I think at that moment, I thought, in many ways, I don't know if I love him, but I know if I marry him, I will love him, because you can't buy that. You can't create that. It's either in a person or it's not. A, love of the Lord. B, compassion, kindness. So you may have the floor.
and because of that, it was funny, because we were originally planning married, and she was doing a uni course or something, right?
Yeah.
And it was going to be going on till sort of, I think, she's going to finish called April or May, sometime like that. And
graduation.
And then I found out that, well, because of if we did that, we would have to go through immigration. It would take too long. So I remember I was at a Fresno campus. I says, look, we got to get married a lot sooner than that. Okay, we got to get married soon. So we changed our date from then up until it was going to be January. Then it finished in February.
So that's February the following year.
Yeah, February
from
2018. So I thought, okay, great, this is great. So we did the next step of planning for our wedding. Now most people says, okay, well, let's get together first. I planned the honeymoon. Yep. Now we hadn't gotten officially engaged yet either, mind you. But I planned the honeymoon because I just knew for a fact we were going to.
You're a trip planner, like you
Yes.
I don't know anyone that's travelled as much as you two have. Right? So,
Neither anymore.
So of course you're going to go straight to planning the honeymoon.
Yeah, because whenever we're on a trip, he's planning the next one. I was like, oh, this is great. And he's like, you know what we should do?
And so we did. And so then, I figured, well, the idea was we were going to get engaged when I saw her in June of 2017. So I had to go out and pick the ring. I remember sending her pictures of the ring and making sure you were the right one, got that all done. And then we saw each other at Geelong. I spent the convention in Geelong, went back to Brisbane, which was and then we got engaged at South Bank in Brisbane, okay? Got engaged there. And so now we did it right. Before that, we made sure that we were pasteurized by Brad Smith, and we had a prayer, give her the blessing.
That was right in the middle of the convention.
Right in the middle of the convention. But guess what? Pastor Godfrey was there, who he was going to marry us on the spot.
He said, "Do you want to get married now? I'll do it for you now."
So no, and we got to go through the process. So, and then after that, the next thing that had to happen, we had to actually go on a first date. So she came back to the States in September. That's when we went on our first date.
So we did all backwards. It worked great.
But, throughout it all, we communicated. It was tough. I know there were times and we were really missing each other.
So what got you through those periods of toughness?
A lot of prayer and knowing that we were there.
Pray together, pray separately?
Both. We would pray together on the phone. We pray separately, or, we talk to each other. She may get upset or something about something, just call me, or we just whatever we took.
Messages help a lot because they're a very instant thing. So, you can, I did have some tough times. And even after we got married, I went back for a few months without him. I would never do that again. And that was before COVID. When COVID hit.
So where did you get married? You got married in Australia?
Oh, yeah. And then went back over to the States, and I was there for a few months, but I had some tidying up to do back in Australia, so I went
back.
Where
were you?
I was at San Pedro. When we got married, we immediately came back to where I was living at in Long Beach.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, we went on the honeymoon, which was Bali, and then went straight to Fresno camp there, which was great because they gave us kind of like a second wedding. Just a little funny
ceremony
thing.
at camp. So
it was really nice.
Yep.
Really sweet.
So we celebrate our wedding not by a week. We have a week celebration.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, it goes right over Valentine's Day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Cool.
And like I said, it's really the communication.
Yeah, don't break communication. That's the thing. Like whether it's calls, messages, whether you just send a photo or a funny joke. Because I think a lot of what kept us going was he was kind of involved in my life, like always hearing about where I was and what I was doing and vice versa. You need to be doing that. Where are you now? What are you doing now? Didn't matter if you were just sitting in the car or sitting on your bed reading a book, but as long as the person could feel that you were there.
So it builds that connection.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, always.
And then it's sort of like when you get together, when you actually physically get together, you used to...
All of that stuff anyway.
Yeah, it is.
We discovered very early on that we're a team. We had to plan an entire wedding, like from opposite ends of the world. So we did. And
she had to plan. I had to plan the guys' stuff. What the guys were going to wear. I had to plan that from the States and organize that from the States.
And they were all in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how did you decide where to live?
Work. Your work.
Well, actually, it was a work. Because remember, she said something that really impressed me. I knew she was the right person because early on she said that, I'm going to be wherever you are. That's what she said.
Well, that's true.
And she said, I have to move to the States. I thought, wow, Lord, thank you. That was it. There was no discussion. She just said it that wherever you are, that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah. And did you feel like the Lord wanted you where you were?
Well, I was the leader of the San Pedro Fellowship at the time. So I knew that it's important as a ministry sort of thing to be there, to not cause interruption because Jim Seixas, I don't know if you knew him, he passed away in 2013. So I was there. So Pastor David asked me if I could just take over the leadership of there. So it was important for me to maintain that sort of continuity. And so when she said that, I said, yep, so this is the one. This is the one. So.
And now you're in Athens, in Georgia?
Yeah, we're in Athens, yep.
With Pastor Steve down there?
Yeah, with Pastor Steve, yep.
So if you meet a couple who are dating long distance, what advice would you give them?
Communicate. Seriously, whatever way you can do and make sure it's real communication. Don't just talk about sports or that sort of talk about real issues and
that's not advice for long distance couples, right? That's advice for any couple.
Exactly. But even more important long distance because that's what you have to rely. You can't rely on sitting next to the person. So what you have to do, basically you have to recreate that person in your life where you are.
You just have to try harder. You just have to do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess everything's a lot more full on, I guess. Yeah. Like even if he traveled or I traveled within our own country, we still had to stay in touch all the time.
Well, if you're in person, you're having that communication when you're doing things that are going to the meetings and church activities, etc.
Yeah.
This communication that you're talking about is on top of those things because you're still involved.
Exactly.
Yes, I can understand why it's more full on.
Yeah, because she's had her assembly life, so I had my family, we had your family, I had my family, but at the same time we were building on top of
this
all
new
of
thing
that.
On top of that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You want to make sure when you get there that you're not coming up to a stranger.
Yeah, absolutely. So communicate. That's number one.
Oh,
anything else? Anything else that you would?
And treat the person. Make sure that person is your best friend. Then make sure they're your brother or sister in the Lord. Make sure they're also your best friend, and that is so critical.
I think that if you come in thinking, well, look, I've got my life and he's got his, that you kind of, I don't know, you've got to realize if you're going to marry that person, you actually are building one life.
Oh, that's
You're going to be a team.
We're one body together, one body, right?
That's right. Yep. And so that's the focus. However you do it, that's the focus. But I think definitely we tried never to skip a day unless there was something with a phone or the internet, because I know I had, what happened? I don't know, but there was 17 hours that we couldn't talk.
Panic stage.
Oh, man. That was tough.
I was really panicking because
I could see it on your face. Well, people can't see that, right? You can see that recollection on your face.
It was just like she was talking to me, and boom, she was gone. I couldn't call her. Couldn't see. I was what happened? I was in panic state.
It was.
Yeah.
Because we got so used to being connected. I guess that's make sure you stay connected. Make sure you connect with the person on all levels, not just something superfluous, but all levels. You have to be connected. So to me, that's the other important. Be connected. Make sure you stay connected.
That's brilliant. Awesome. Thank you so much both for sharing that. That was wonderful. There's lots of gold in there, I think, for any couple, let alone long distance couples. So thanks for sharing. That's awesome.
Thanks for asking us, Ben.
Wow.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Amazing.
So grateful that they shared their stories with us.
Very courageous.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Interesting themes that then run through both of their stories about the importance of communication in a relationship.
Yes, and do you think that that was something that also benefited us when we were dating?
And you'll hear this in the next, we've got 2 more coming up, and you'll hear this in the next stories as well about how communication is the foundation of obviously, any relationship. God's the foundation, and then in terms of a relationship, how important communication is. And if you're doing it long distance, that's all you've got, which is not a bad thing because I think it gives you a really solid foundation and probably not a bad thing to consider even if you're not having a long distance relationship, about how important that communication is.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've got 2 more coming after this one, so stay tuned for when that comes out. Until next time.
He says.
She says.
God says.
Okay, what are we going to talk about?
I don't even know why I'm here.
Well, you're definitely here for your good looks.
I'm not sure about that. Apparently we're podcasting. Looks to me like you need a sleep.
I do need a sleep, I'm so old.
Is this going to be a bedtime story?
It could be. But it's only 2:37 in the afternoon.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Welcome to He Says, She Says, God Says. Hello, Benjamins.
Hello, Emily, we're back.
We are back. But we're sort of not back. We're back in Australia.
We are back in Australia. No, let's start that again.
Welcome to... God Says.